2,
One.
1.
I like that that Riverside does like a little countdown. Makes it feel more real. Not that it's not
Yeah.
real, but hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the TVT Tavern. My name's Silverblaze X, and I have my lovely, wonderful co-host, Wandering Ambu. And today we're going to be talking about the movie Sinners. But before that, and as in old fashion, as always, let me derail us really quick. That I just remembered I wanted to talk to you about something. We
This
will
is just
get to it. We will get to it. Okay, all right. We will get to Sinners. But I did want to talk to you about how much do you pay attention to the VTuber space right now?
It's hit or miss. I know that there's two VTubers that I kind of used to follow are graduating or have graduated. Um, like Mume is graduating.
She
If y'all didn't
graduated
know that.
already yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yesterday. Oh,
yeah.
and then I know Gargura is graduating because of
May
contract
1st.
issues, right?
Yeah, she had issues with management. Something was we don't know what it is. So you can only speculate, and we'll never know. But
But isn't
it's kind of
sorry.
wild that,
hmm
huh? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll ask you after you do your thing. Go for it. Get your idea going. Go, go, go.
No, I was just gonna say that. So no, the reason I'm asking is because there was there's the last couple of days. It's been like big drama on this one VTuber specifically. She's an
Oh,
indie VTuber.
I know what you're talking
She's
about. I
called
think.
Sinder,
Yep, yep.
and so many people came out and just started talking so much shit about her because genuinely, after looking at all the logs and the long tweets and all those big paragraphs and the chats and the proof, it's wild, man. You know,
hmm
it makes me double down on saying I'm glad I never became a VTuber because holy, that industry, I don't even want to call it, I used to call it the VTuber community, but I'm like, dude, they don't really treat each other like a community.
No.
I'm just gonna call it the VTubing industry is wild, man. Like all
Yeah.
the stuff that they caught her doing, and her manager, aka her boyfriend,
hmm
who she was hiding that it was her boyfriend. But she's like, she did a response yesterday late in the day,
Oh no.
and she responded and she said, there's nothing I can say that'll make things better. So, and
Usual.
then proceeds to throw her boyfriend under the bus. So it's like, okay, but don't make it there's nothing you can say that'll make things better, but don't make it worse. So she did not want to own up to anything, and she wanted the dude to basically take the whole fall for things, and that she felt manipulated, all this stuff. It's like, dude, come on, man.
You
Like,
know.
go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say in those situations, there's sometimes where it's like it's either you deflect, which you just mentioned is like deflecting, shifting blame. There's people who really apologize, but they don't really apologize. It's more like they apologize for getting caught, not for what they did. And then sometimes there are people who genuinely go, yeah, I fucked up, I made this mistake, I own up to it. Here's what I'm doing to rectify that, and this is what I'm going to do in the future. And it's like, kudos to you. I do understand how like sometimes it can be hard to, there's no winning solution to resolving this issue, but the best thing
Yeah,
that you could do is own up to it and say, hey, I fucked up, we fucked up, this is my part in it, and this is what I've learned from it, and I wouldn't do it again. And it's classic, like, it just feels very vintage um deflection. It's, I don't have words, but yeah.
no, and I didn't either. Like, honestly, I'll be completely honest with you. Cinder was one of the VTubers that I followed, and I genuinely thought that she had a pretty good business model, and that she
Mm.
became co-owner of Game Subs. So I was like, damn,
Oh,
like she's doing great, like she's killing
yeah.
it. Um, but turns out that she's just the savage in the background. She's just out there to get that bag, and that's okay. We're out here. We're all out here to get that money, right? But
Yeah,
never at the cost of. At least I'd like to believe that never at the cost of your peers, or trying to sabotage people, because that's what she did. she
yeah,
she tried to pay her artists and other creatives to not do work for other VTubers, it just to stay competitive. But like, dude, it was so dirty, it was so wild. I don't get it. Like, it looks like every week we get like a new VTuber that does something scummy like that. And man, I'm almost glad our friend circle is very limited on with VTubers. We have a few VTubers, but
hmm,
I like to believe that they're better, because some of them are actually like flesh tubers, real tubers, real content creators too.
yeah.
They
Real
Yeah.
IRL streamers, I guess, or whatever they're called. It's just, dude, I guess I'm just not surprised because I feel like you said, every week there's always something new, and it's always something breaking, and it's always something that further divide. Because you're right, like I've never seen the community really be that in like
Industry.
in okay industry. I've never seen that industry really feel like a community. I agree with you on that. I've seen a lot of VTubers who say I'd rather stay independent or indie because I don't have to deal with the corporate side of it and everything. And and a lot of them are great. I mean, there's Omen K, there's Miss Mummy, there's forgive me, there's a lot of others who I think you and I both follow that are really great that I can't think of
Yeah.
right now, that have stayed independent, and they are very great people, and they're very open. And Shuchi is also great, great artist also. Like, there's a lot of great people who have decided to stay indie because VTubing has really just become a corporation, not a community, hands down.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, there's very good VTubers in my opinion, but like, I also now I don't know, because
Yeah,
like I genuinely thought Sinder was one of the good ones.
yeah,
When I read everything that came out by the artist Nano, I was surprised. I was completely like floored. I did
mm-hmm,
not see that one coming whatsoever.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I just thought I'd ask you if you had heard about that, because it was wild, man. The drama and all of that. Because
yeah,
people just kept on coming out talking more and more things. It's like, actually, yeah, you're right, or like,
mm-hmm,
yeah, this also happened. And then her coming out and saying something silly like the boyfriend, the manager, no longer works as her manager, and
mm-hmm,
will no longer make decisions. And I'm all like, dude, as long as he's still your boyfriend, right, as still is your significant other, he has a financial in like he's invested in your career, because like,
yeah,
if you don't make money, he doesn't make money. If you're a couple, right, if you're wealthy, he's wealthy. So like, he's obviously, even if he's not managing your career, right, like, he's still gonna have input at the end of the night. At the end of the night, when you guys are in bed falling asleep, he's gonna be like, "Hey, maybe you should consider this. Hey, what about this?" They're still gonna
yeah,
talk business, bro. Like, I don't even
yeah.
know why she said that. That was such a stupid post to say. He no longer represents me. He's no longer my manager. As far as our relationship, I don't know what's gonna happen. We're gonna sort it out privately. So it's like, okay, so nothing changed. Nothing
No, that's
happened.
that's legitimately what it is. It's like trying to create a sense of owning up, like deflection. Things are going to change, but they aren't going to change. It's just words on a paper. Let's be real.
Yeah, honestly, the galls in that chick for thinking that everybody's stupid enough to buy into that. But whatever. And speaking of
Well,
biting into stuff, Sinners, right? That
well,
one, it
real.
caught me by surprise. Oh, what
Mhm.
were you gonna say?
I was gonna say the only reason why I knew about it, dude, real quick,
Mm.
and then we can go back into
Yeah, yeah,
discussing
yeah, yeah.
Sinners,
I'm listening.
is because our one of our VTubers that we do talk to, who did some of the, who who we were working with on TVD Tavern for a little bit, Sugar and Spice is a hellhound, and they are known
Hmm.
as the Sugary Hellhound, and they made a joke of, hey, so can I now be the like Hellhound overlord for all
I saw
Hellhound
that.
VTubers? And then that
Yeah,
made me
yeah,
go, wait, what happened? And then that's when I saw everything went, oh, another controversy. Got it. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
told her, I was like, you should just run for the mayor of Hellhounds because, like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, it was bad. But
yeah.
going
But
back to
Sinners.
Sinners, but
Mm-hmm.
Sinners. So okay, the movie is not what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
When you told me about it to go watch it, you didn't really tell me like what the theme was or anything. You just say, "Hey,
That's
like we're
fair.
gonna go watch this movie, Sinners or whatever," and I was like, "Oh, hey, cool, I'm gonna go watch it." It's another movie that we might, it might be interesting to talk about in the podcast. And so far, it looked like it was like a historical, uh, uh, back in like the plantation days, having to deal with slavery and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
um and it was being done, historical fiction is the word I was looking for.
There you go. Yeah.
It was being done so well, like it was telling us this story of this guy named Sammy, and how hardworking he is, how he's living in this plantation, how he has this father who is a preacher, and the dad has really high expectations for him and stuff, and he just kind of wants to be, he's young, he's young, he works hard, he does things correctly, he just wants to kind of do his thing. He's like, all right, I've been doing all these good things, I've been good to my family, I've been good to my dad, I'm a hard worker, I earn my keep, I deserve to do my thing too, right? Because like, why
Mm-hmm.
not? Work hard, play hard, you know and the way that the story was going, it was awesome, I liked it. And then you get Michael B. Jordan coming in with this,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, digital copy of himself, which I don't even know how they did that, but it was very well made. Like, you couldn't really tell that there was any sort of, like, special effects there or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely thought, I was like, for a second while I was watching the movie, I was like, does Michael B. Jordan have like a twin? I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like, what's going on? Like, it was done very well,
Mm-hmm.
because he plays these two characters, Stack and Smoke, right? And he does a fantastic job just playing these twins, that, like, you can see that the brotherhood is very well acted out, and they happen to be cousins with the kid Sammy, who likes to play guitar, and he obviously looks like he's very talented. And they wanna open like a little bar, or like a little joint, right,
It's
in
a
this small
jukebox. Yeah.
little town. Yeah, is that what that's called, a
It's
jukebox?
called,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, so basically they wanted to open up a jukebox for everybody to enjoy. They bought a what they
Dance
thought was
band.
a
Yeah.
sawmill, from a Ku Klux Klan leader, or a dragon
Mhm.
as they're known in their ranks. And we're trying to set this up in one day. They wanted to get it open. They wanted to make it big. It was for basically their family to, like, their everyone that they grew up with to enjoy, because during the time period it was really rough and really bad. Jim Crow law was still in effect. There's there you still have to worry about the Ku Klux Klan and how prominent it was, especially where it was located, which you think it was in the deep South. So they come back from Chicago. They're loaded. They worked for the mob, and they're like, we want to set this up. And so they go to find blues players who would help make the jukebox come alive. So they go for a guy named Delta Slim, who is an amazing pianist, as well as like a very well regarded harmonica player. Sammy is their guitarist that he's really excited to play. And I think they were getting somebody else named Cornbread who'd be like the bouncer. They were basically working their way to find the right people to help them
Yeah,
make
yeah, yeah. It's a
the
cool little
place alive.
story that you're seeing as
Yeah.
they're building their little like staff for this jukebox, right? They're grabbing everybody. They got the bouncer, they got the musicians. They go into town, they pick up they go talk to the grocery people and they have like the food, they already have the booze. Michael B. Jordan reconnects with this woman Annie who does like
She's
I don't
so
want to call it go ahead.
well. It's like I would say pagan, um,
Like a
like
Creole those maybe
Creole.
what
Yeah,
voodoo, not necessarily voodoo
kind of
because
voodoo. No.
I don't know what kind of beliefs that was, but I mean almost like shaman like practices that she has, and they have like a history, and you kind of see it there as they get reconnect. And it's not too much later that you find out that they actually had a kid, they lost a baby, right?
Hmm.
That kind of broke them apart, and that happens in real life. Like a lot of couples do part ways when that happens, if they have like
Yeah.
a baby that passes, that tends to break the couple up. It's not unheard of, and that's basically what happens to Annie and Michael B. Jordan's character Smoke. Um, you know, uh,
Hmm.
but
So,
yeah, they reconnect, and what was that?
mhm. So she practiced hoodoo. So
Hoodoo. Okay,
yeah,
hoodoo.
just looked it up real quick. It's called hoodoo, is what her character would practice.
Yeah, because I was
So
like the things that she had on her shop didn't necessarily emulate or look. Not that I'm a specialist in voodoo, but I've seen enough voodoo to know that did not look voodoo
yeah.
related. Um, but yeah, they start getting everything ready. They're getting the little jukebox going. They got everything. They got all these peoples. Even Stacks, old romance, kind of
Hmm.
starts following him around by a girl named Mary, who's kind of like half black, half white. She has her own. That's the thing that I like about this movie is that as they're picking up every single one of these characters up to add them to their group, their cast, right? Each one of them has like a little bit of history, right? Like that you kind of don't need to get too much into, and you get a good
Hmm.
idea who they are. You see Mary, and she's struggled with being half black, half white. You see Annie, you see that she's part of the community. She has history with smoke. You see the Asian couple that run the two grocery shops in town,
Hmm.
and their influence in the city. You see Cornbread also, like being this kind of like silly big giant, right?
Yeah.
But you get a good idea. You see how hurt Delta Slim is, right? The pianist and harmonica player. Each one of them, as they start getting added into the cast, you get like a brief moment, and you don't need like a full dive into each one of their lives to be able to see how each one of them is kind of branded and damaged, and what their history is. And it's really cool
Yeah.
how they do it, how the director did it. Ryan Coogler, right?
Hmm.
Ryan Coogler.
Same director as Black Panther 1 and 2. Uh,
What? I
yeah.
didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
wild. That makes sense. No wonder it's so good. No wonder
Yeah.
it's so good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Um, but like I was telling Ambu, I, I just thought this was gonna be a historical fiction about two
Yeah.
brothers bringing some mess into town, and Sammy the kid or whatever was
Yeah.
gonna, like, I don't know, man.
I mean, okay, like to be fair, I didn't want to spoil anything because I thought the movie was just that good going in blind. Um, I really loved the symbolism in the movie, the thematic elements. I really loved how personal this was for Ryan Coogler because it was an homage to his uncle Jack, who had a ritual of listening to the blues. So this was like a remembrance of his uncle, which is really cool considering the story of ancestry and lineage that plays out in Sinners, and like how Sammy is the equivalent of like a shaman who can call to the past, present, and future line of like his ancestry. He opens up the world between the barrier between the spiritual and the physical world, which actually leads to the big conflict in Sinners, is because of his capabilities of doing so. Um, there's just a lot of really good stuff in this movie, but I'll let you continue so that way I'll dive into everything else later.
I guess the only thing, so where it starts throwing, so I guess I should have known because at the beginning of the movie, like it starts off with Sammy walking into the church and
Mm-hmm.
his dad is like preaching or whatever, and he's all bloodied and hurt and injured, and he has like a broken guitar in his hand that he just won't let go of the broken guitar. And at some point, I saw the side of his face and it had like claws, and I was
Gotcha.
like, "What the?" But I didn't know if it was claws or if it was because it again, it's a plantation. It was from those
Mm-hmm.
slavery days, right? So I was like, oh, maybe he got, they all got in a tussle with like the clan, right? And those are not claws, but like whips, because they're like gashes that he has on his face. So I'm like, okay, so they they whipped him, they hit him on the face. Maybe Michael B. Jordan, saves him. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then there's this scene while like they're setting up the jukebox that just immediately cuts into this dude that is running for his life, and he's got like smoke coming out of him, like he's on fire, and I'm like, what's going on? But he's a white guy, so I'm like, why is the white guy injured and burning? Like, what's going on? Like, this is not that kind of
Mm-hmm.
movie. Like, I was like, that's not how slavery worked. Wait a minute. Like, uh, he shows up at this house from these farmers. They're out there somewhere in the wild in Mississippi, and he's like, please help me. These men are chasing me. These like dark colored or whatever. I don't know how you describe them. They're chasing me. Please help me, hide me, whatever the heck, right? So I'm like, is this dude trying to like get some people in trouble? Is he the one that's gonna bring the issues to the story? What's going on, right? The couple hides him because he offers them gold. But then I was like, gold?
Mm-hmm.
What the? I was like, why does this guy have gold? And they were like gold coins, like weird gold coins. Um, and it's not until like I see that the ones that were chasing the guy were Native Americans, and then I was like, oh, this is this is not a historical. This is not. This is this is different. This is not what I thought it was. I'm like now. Then I'm starting to get it. I'm like, wait, Native Americans. The dude smoking in the sunlight. He has old gold in his hands, and I'm like, okay, this is like a horror or something. Like my mind started going into that because the Native Americans was interviewing the lady that opens the door to the house, and he's like, hey, this guy is not what you think he is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and if he's already in your house, you need to let us help you now, right? And then you start hearing the other group of Native Americans that are there with that guy, and they're like, hey, they're telling them in their language, hey, it's getting dark, like we need to go, either we do it now or we leave, because
Yeah.
like after that we can't do anything. And then I was like, I was like, no way is this movie about vampires. No way this movie is about vampires, man.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he leaves. She goes back in trying to look for her husband, who was obviously hiding the guy, Remick. That's the name of the vampire guy.
Mm-hmm.
And hubby is dead. Hubby is in the floor, bleeding his brains out, and Remick, the vampire, is just kind of chilling there. It's like, hey,
He's
welcome
doing a
back to
whole
the
lot
party.
better.
That your husband bleeding there? Don't worry about that. Hey, and thanks for taking care of the Native Americans. Appreciate you. And then I was like, okay, yeah, this is a vampire movie. I did not see this one coming. Like that was wild because by that time the movie had been an hour, almost close to an hour in, and it was a historical fiction so far of like
Hmm.
all these, bushy tailed, bright eyes people. They were just trying to make that jukebox, and they were doing good for themselves, and they were reliving some past. They were healing some wounds, and it looked different, man. That's not what I was expecting. So when that came in like that, it was out of left field. Left
Hmm.
field on Boo.
Like I said, it was, I wanted to leave it as a surprise because I felt like there's a turning point for that. But I feel like there's symbolism behind that too, eventually with the racial dynamics as well.
Mm,
Because I think you think about like how he took on an Irish tone as well at some point. And I
yeah,
know
he
in
did. Yeah,
U.S. history, Irish folk were indentured servants at some point. But then like
yeah,
it's a whole difference between like I felt like there was a little bit of a callback to like that idea of like even when there was indentured servitude, it definitely was nowhere near the same as like slavery because I think there was kind of like a little bit of a discussion on that with what Sammy and African Americans were experiencing. Um, I think there was a little bit more of that of like we are the same but we're not. Like that's kind of a big thing is with this vampire and with the lore that they were using, he was trying to argue that we're all the same, but even in today's world, being colorblind doesn't work. We can't just pretend to be colorblind and not deal with racial discrimination, racial bias, inequity, inequality, all these other things. So I felt like it
yeah.
was trying to have a little bit of a discussion in that, but in the form of vampires. Like, you know, people will suck you dry and then tell you that you're doing better. Um,
Literally.
yeah. But I think this movie too, what I loved was it dealing with trauma and dealing with generational
There's a lot.
trauma. So yeah, because like
Yeah,
Smoke and Stack, a lot of the big story that you find unfolding throughout the movie is why Smoke and Stack left the plantation. I think if I remember correctly, Smoke killed their father, and they had to run away because he was beating Stack, and he had to do that to protect his brother. But then because he was the mayor of the town, that was going to lead to a lot of problems. So that's why they left. They
yeah,
went to Chicago. They come back rich. Sammy is idolizing that, and that's not something that they tell him that he should idolize because sure they look rich, but it came with a lot of caveats and a lot of things that they're not proud of. The idea of the movie being named Sinners is interesting because everybody has sins that they're hiding or sins that they're dealing with. Um, and I think that's kind of like the play around it. And also, if I remember correctly, and for any historians out there that are watching this, because we've landed on your For You page or on TikTok or whatever, there's also the whole thing of blues being considered, rock music, because blues kind of like helped to create rock and roll. How that used to be like the devil's music at times, so there's a whole play on that as well. So that's why there was a whole thing of him, like the father, trying to get Sammy to stay away from that because it leads to sin and avarice, and so like again, there's a lot of play on it, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, it has a lot of different pieces. It definitely has a lot of generational trauma. You're absolutely correct. A lot of things are happening in the movie that like you notice, but you don't notice. And But it's not overwhelming, and it's
Hmm.
put in a very good way in it. And I like how they when eventually the vampires reach the jukebox, and how things start just kind of unfolding, and how Annie, the hoodoo expert,
Hmm.
is the one that calls it out, and she's like, "These are vampires, right?" Because
Yeah.
um, these vampires start obeying kind of like the traditional things of like they can't come into a home or a place if they're not invited. So that's one of the first things that they start noticing that kind of like calls out her realizing these are vampires is when people like Cornbread. Sadly, even though I hate to see it, Cornbread got bitten. Cornbread gets turned into a vampire. uh you know, he insists on being invited back, and that's where it kind of like it gives it away. Also, Mary, the love interest for Stack, uh gets turned, and she ends up biting Stack, and they get to see that because they were having a smexy scene, uh a prawn scene,
Mhm.
and it turned into a blood scene. uh and they shot her, she got up, she's like nothing happened, and that obviously was also another red flag. Yeah, it just gets wild, you know. They're just trying to stay alive. They're all going down one by one. uh I don't know how they were able to fight off that entire, like, because all the people that attend the jukebox got let go. They were told to leave the party because, you know, Stack got attacked by Mary, and they were just trying. Everybody was just trying to regroup and figure out what the hell that just happened, right?
Yeah.
And that the vampires took the opportunity to literally eat every single one of the people that were invited into the into the
Yeah.
jukebox. Um,
Well,
but yeah, go
mhm.
ahead.
No, please continue. I'll devolve into my big thing I want to talk about after you're done. Please continue.
No, you're good. I guess ultimately, like, the vampire scene was pretty cool. The fighting and everything, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. They fought them off for a while pretty well, and they all
Hmm.
stayed alive for a pretty long time, and I was just kind of surprised how it all happened, because they barely were able to fight off sometimes just one, and next
Hmm.
thing you know, they get mobbed. um yeah, I don't know, it was all right. The scenes
I
were
mean,
the vampire scene was
I
the
thought it
fighting
was
scene was all right.
no, it was. I just thought it was so funny because the reason why that fight even broke out was because, um, she was like, come on in, you motherfuckers," or whatever she said, and then it was just like,
Oh,
"Bro,
the
seriously?"
Asian
Yeah,
lady, yeah.
yeah. And then like they were
Grace
eating
Cho.
garlic and everything to like again, if they're vampires, eat garlic. That didn't work, obviously. I think it was interesting that basically it was saying the ideas that we have of vampire, which is like religion and spirituality, and how Christianity was to overpower it because vampires are demonic. It was funny. I was
Hmm.
like, that didn't work at all. That there was no that doesn't matter. Like religion wouldn't have changed the outcome of the oppression that was being delivered by the vampires.
Right, because there
Um,
was even a scene where Sammy started praying, hoping that, it
mhm,
would stop the main vampire guy, Remick, from killing
mhm,
him. Because the movie also touched on, speaking of spiritualities, it touched on how there's a belief that, music has always brought people together, and how it's connected people, even at a spiritual level.
mhm,
And sometimes when things look so pretty and so many people are connected, sometimes evil tends to get attracted as well. And, you know Remick the vampire apparently wanted Sammy because he had that sort of innate ability to connect and attract people. So I guess he wanted the Sammy the to be a vampire, or he wanted him to use him to attract more people so that he can continue to bite and convert more people into vampires. So when he finally captures Sammy, Sammy just starts praying. He starts doing an Our Father, and he starts
yeah.
praying an Our Father, I think.
Our
And
Father on
the
heaven.
the 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 vampire starts praying too, because it's like, okay, cool, let's both pray. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Like,
yeah,
you have no power here. Like, this is not gonna stop me, right? So you're right.
yeah.
Like, religion definitely was not gonna save them there. That sort
Well,
of idea that they thought about vampires was not gonna save them.
So real quick then, let me tie speaking of interreligion, because another thing that the movie does tie into, I think I'm incorrect in what I was trying to say about the Irish heritage, because I think that was key. What it was trying to tie into was how the Irish were persecuted back in like the 17th century, because there was like the Catholicism versus Protestant. Um,
Yeah,
a lot of Irish people were driven from their home into trying to escape and survive, but there was still discrimination against them, and they went through stuff again like indentured servitude, all this other things, and so Remick tries to use that as a way to say like your journey has been my journey because I too was persecuted, but then again it's like trying to say I understand what you've been through, but it's not the same, like it's the whole we have common ground, but really there isn't common ground between their origins and their ancestry. Um, and then also, you did touch upon this with the music, though I think the movie tries to touch upon exploitation of black culture and especially music, like white people wanting to take using cultural appropriation is what I'm trying to say.
oh,
Um,
cultural appropriation, gotcha.
yeah, so taking parts of culture from and taking it as if it's their own, without respect to it. It's the idea of like, well, you have this now, I want it, and I'm going to make it my own thing, without respect to the way that to the way that it was created, to the cultures that created it. It's so there. I think there's a discussion on that as well. Um, and
I can
yeah,
see that.
yeah, and then like think about the symbolism of how the lumber mill that they bought, or the sawmill that they bought, was actually the killing ground that the KKK would use to kill African Americans,
Yeah,
and how there's symbolism in that as well too, of like how they knew something, there was something different about it, because remember in the beginning of the movie they're like, there's something going on here, like why is the floor like this, and they try to say, oh, it's just a regular old sawmill, whatever, but it wasn't. It was a killing floor.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because he, the guy that sold it to Stack and Smoke was like, the clan doesn't exist anymore, and they're like, right,
Right.
sure, because it doesn't exist even now in 2025. Sure, wank. Um, yeah, there's a lot of symbolism in a lot of the different things in this movie, historical, spiritual, religious, everything. But it was very well put together. I really enjoyed it. It was a really good movie. The ending is not what I expected. Um, it wasn't bad necessarily. It's just I kind of wish it would have ended a little bit
Mm.
differently for Smoke. You know, I feel bad
Mm-hmm.
that Annie went down. He really loved her,
Mm-hmm.
and she even told him to not let her turn into a vampire and that not to worry,
Yeah.
like she had somebody waiting for her in heaven, like their baby, right, that died. That was really sad. um and how her hoodoo, even her hoodoo charm, because he had a charm that she made him made that she made him, that for some reason actually kept the vampires away. It actually it would not let, because a lot of times Smoke got almost got bitten multiple times, but that little charm that he had never let the vampires bite him. It wasn't until he willingly took it off and decided to have this like all out shootout with the clan, because the clan, on top of vampires, this man also fought off a group of clan members that were coming into the property, the sawmill, the juke place, to kill all these people, right? And uh, because he was also in the military, uh, he had all these weapons and guns, and he was ready for them. Um, because I think Remick, the
Mm-hmm.
vampire, he had bitten one of the nephews of the clan guy, the drag. What is the title?
Yeah, so the guy that he bit at the beginning when he was running away was the nephew to the dragon, to the guy that sold the sawmill
Right.
to Smoke and Stack. And he tried again to use it to say, like, see, I understand your plight. If I hadn't have done this, you wouldn't have known, and you would have been hurt. See, like, I'm here for you. We could live in harmony and love and prosperity, but as you can see, that's not really what happens. That's not how it really is. It's again selling the idea of you know as like being white is great, and like we can embrace each other, but you have to
Selling the
assimilate
idea of
to
being white.
us.
Hmm.
No, but I mean, like, that's kind of like, I think, what it really boils down to. Like, again, not to make it purely about race in this movie, but there is racial
Oh
discussions.
no, this movie is
Uh,
straight about
yeah.
race. Yeah.
So I think it's like
Um.
trying to say, like, assimilate to our culture, and you'll
Yeah.
be in a culture that loves you, but that's not true. And that's
And there's no color and everything. Yeah, that's
yeah,
how
yeah,
the vampire was trying to sell it to him. It's like, let me just bite you and make you into one of us. You won't have to worry about race or anything like that because we're all connected. We all share the same thoughts, the same feelings, or whatever.
yeah.
And I mean, that all sounds kind of nice, but it also kind of robs you from your individuality,
Well,
right?
and also it tries to negate the struggle and the experience of black people. I mean, to tell them, hey, like, we'll help you, it doesn't change what black people were going through back then. It wasn't going to change what their experience was. The world
Right.
was still going to be just as discriminatory. Um, it's the false promise of hope and liberation, but also stealing their culture and stealing them, and then trying to tell them to assimilate to become white because white is the goal. But as we see in the movie, that doesn't help. Like, you know that's not how this works. um so I that's something that I found very admirable about the movie, is like saying, hey, like, this is like, you can't pretend to be colorblind. We live in a world where the concept of being colorblind is impossible, and to pretend to be humanitarian, to pretend to be all these other things, doesn't make sense, because that negates the struggle and experiences that our ancestors have gone through in some form or another. Um, I think that's very important for us to acknowledge, is like, a lot of us, we didn't experience that, but our relatives did. And well, not my relatives, my mother's from Singapore, so I'm not going to say my relatives, but like, there are people out there whose relatives went through that struggle, and you cannot deny that that happened. You can't erase that history. You have to embrace it, because that is a part of the lineage, and we have to respect it, and um, give it the respect that it deserves. So I think that's
Yeah.
such a big part of this movie, is like saying that the idea of Christianity, which is prevalently Anglo-Saxon or white, won't save you. Assimilating, becoming white like Remick, will not work. It's basically saying, you can't assimilate into something else. You can't appropriate my culture to and then think that life is going to be better. And that's what I
Yeah.
appreciate with everything. I mean, yes, you're right that Smoke's ending is tragedy, in a sense of he dies, but the beauty in that is that he got to see his Aunt Annie and his daughter. He got to be with her in the end, and there's something very beautiful in that, because I think, in a way, what this I think the other symbolism for me is with Smoke's story is, he was already dead, in a sense of, he lost his baby, he lost the woman that he loves, he lost who he was, he had to run away from home. In a way, he had already been dead from the beginning, so he finally gets to
Yeah.
be alive, be with his family, which is what he's always wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he eventually found peace, right? Which
Yeah,
we all do eventually. And he found it in his own way, which is completely okay, man. We all get to pick our
yeah.
ending. But overall, good movie. Do I recommend it? Yes, people should go watch this movie. It's very well made. Um, it tells a fantastic set of stories, and eventually into one story, and then you get surprised like I did. uh, but it's a good movie for sure. Definitely,
Hmm.
I would 8 out of 10 for me, honestly. And you all
Okay.
should go watch it. Should you go watch it at the movies if it's still out there? You know what? It would be a good date night movie. If not, I would wait for it on anything like Prime, wherever, so you can have also another date night with your significant other. Um, yeah, it was a good
I'm
movie.
gonna I'm gonna say you should go see it in the movie theaters. I think it's a movie that needs a lot of discussion. I think it shows that movies with original ideas are not dead and they can still sell very well. I think it's a movie that um, embraces the very message it's trying to do. Ryan Coogler is a fantastic director. It was very clear that he had a very solid vision, and I'm grateful for what he created. I'm gonna say it's like a 9.5 to a 10 out of 10 for me. I thought this movie really captured a lot of themes that I don't feel as well versed in discussing, and I don't even think like the way I was trying to bring up stuff did it justice. But it's definitely a movie that I think a lot of people need to see, and is worth your time. It's definitely worth the price of admission, and it's beautifully crafted in every facet. Um, so Ryan Coogler, if somehow you see this out there, thank you, because this movie was very beautiful and I'm very grateful that I got to see it in theaters. um, it was a hell of an experience, hands down. um, and also to anybody out there, I want to apologize in case if I know that there's a big discourse right now on whether or not you use the terms African American or Black. So if using African American was offensive, I do want to apologize for that. I just want to be very clear that we are still learning, um, and I will keep that in mind if in the future, um, if that was considered
Isn't
offensive.
he adorable when he gets nervous like this? It's the white side of him. That's why. That's why. It's okay. To all my black brothers and sisters, it was a great movie, dude. It was fantastic. I enjoyed it.
It
Um,
was.
it was good. It was good. But anyways, don't forget to comment. Tell us what you think. Did you go watch it? Did you like it? Also, don't forget to hit that like since you're already around there. Might as well hit that like button. And of course, always turn on those notifications so you know when these fantastic episodes of the TBD Tavern are coming out. Make sure you also follow us on social media and tell us how silly and adorable Ambu is whenever he gets nervous like this, whenever he's afraid of hurting anybody or misgendering, mislabeling, miss anything. Look at him. Look at his adorable face. Um. Anyways, thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Pay your tab. Pay. Make sure the ninja cats don't kill you. And we'll see you another time. Good
Yep.
night.
Right.